think there's a quote from someone who said, essentially, like, if you are in a hard time, walk yourself to sleep.
Interesting.
And that's what I did.
I like that a lot. Say that again.
Walk yourself to sleep.
If you're in a hard time, walk yourself to sleep.
So essentially and that's what he did. And out west in Zion actually just went until he couldn't walk anymore, pitched his tent and slept. So like there's something about just tiring yourself out in nature where your only goal for the day is one foot forward, up and back.
Hey, I'm Steve, and this is I'm Just Steve, the podcast. And today I have special friends.
Yay!
The Millers. In my phone, you're the couple.
Are we?
Yeah, you're the couple. Yeah, you're still under that. I think you always will be the couple.
We still have you as the man.
I am in your phone as the man?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, man.
The man and the couple, but it does come up as the couple when we're talking to you.
Nice. Okay. The group chat is the couple. Yeah. So the Millers and I go back about 5 years now, probably. Randomly met through social media. You guys were following me, and one of you guys were like, hey, let's talk to that Steve dude.
Yep.
And just see what he's about. And then I opened my brokerage, and you guys were some of the first to come hang out. So you guys are living in Florida a bunch right now. And so I feel honored, right? We get a little bit of your time. Yeah. And instead of like taking it for granted that I get your time, I thought, let's throw you on the podcast because everybody needs to hear your story and your journey. And, I think you're special people. And so to hold that to myself for the little bit of time that I have with you, I might as well share you with others. So can you, the couple, the Millers, Danielle and Tim, just tell us who you are? And you guys listen to the intro on the way here, right? So even throw in for me some of the labels that you wear, right? So the idea behind the podcast, for those that haven't watched, and this is the first one that you're watching because you love the Millers and you just want to hear what they have to say, is breaking down some of the labels, right? The labels we carry in our heads of who we are and the labels that others have put on us and how those have helped us and or hurt us in that process of growth. So Miss Miller, ladies first.
All right. Yeah. I am Danielle Miller. I'm a number of different things or labels, I guess. I am a mom. I am a realtor. I'm a wife, obviously. And some of the other things that I've dealt with in my life, it's called CHD survivor, so congenital heart disease survivor. Yeah. I'm an adoptive mom. I love marketing, so I'm a marketer, lots of different things. But me and Tim have been married for going on 9 years, which is crazy. Yeah. Yesterday, Tim got a notification that we became Facebook friends 10 years ago.
Okay.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and so before we get into Tim, we do need to know the story for the audience because you are of the internet generation. And so you met on the interwebs, right?
We met on the Tinder.
The Tinder, right? Was the Tinder like a week old when you met or like?
It was very new. It was like people were just starting to get it. Never did I think I would meet my husband on Tinder. Yeah. I downloaded it. I think he was honestly one of the first people I matched with, but we didn't meet for like...
Is the Tinder a swipe one or is it a match one? I don't know.
Yeah, you swipe and then you match.
Okay, so you swiped for Tim?
I did. Okay. Yes. So we swiped for each other.
Okay, yes, okay.
And then...
You both have to swipe.
You both have to swipe, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then we just talked for a while and then we didn't even end up hanging out for... probably like almost a year.
Okay.
We would just randomly like text every now and then. And then one time I was hanging out with some of my girlfriends and he was hanging out with some of his guy friends and we decided to go bowling at Wanger's.
Okay.
So that's our romantic story.
Yeah, that's a great first date, right? Or not date, but friend connection. Okay.
Yeah. So that was how we...
How did you bowl? Could you even focus on
I don't
bowling?
even remember.
Yeah.
I really thought we were just going to be friends.
Okay.
I really did. And then he asked me out afterwards and... To be honest, I didn't want to go. I was really nervous. Yeah. And my mom, I specifically remember being like, you're going to marry this guy. Why are you so nervous? It was weird. I don't know why she called it.
Okay.
But then after the date, I really, really liked him. The thing that stuck out to me is we were, I can't remember, what's that coffee shop where you can play board games?
Coffee shop for board games.
What is that called?
Down front.
Anyways, we were at this coffee shop where you could play board games, and Tim started up a conversation with some like older people next to us. And I just thought that was really cool that he could talk to anyone. And
he can talk to anyone.
Yeah. So I remember that was one of the first things that attracted me to him. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Tinder, bowling, talking to old people.
Talking to old people.
Tim Miller, tell me about yourself.
So my name is Tim. I'm a self-proclaimed captain.
Self-proclaimed captain. What is that?
Cap Tim.
Okay.
So I give myself that label because I love the boats and boating.
The boats. Yeah.
And I am also.
I thought it was a soccer thing.
I was a captain during my soccer career too. So that is true.
Yeah.
I am obviously a husband and father as well.
Yeah.
And I am also a real estate agent. I have been a coach in soccer and kind of now in real estate, a little bit coaching as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what other people label me as. I honestly try to tune out what other people think a lot and just focus on what I want to be perceived as more than what other people perceive me as.
Yeah. Is that in your relationship? Does one focus on what people think and one doesn't?
I would say Danielle worries about what people think quite a bit more than me. And I have really just, not that I've always been that way. But I would say in the last few years, it's just really been like, I'm going to be me and do me. And if you're not into that, you don't have to be into that. And we probably don't need to connect.
Yeah. Yeah. Ellen Grace and I are the same way. Like I think about what people think of me.
I'm like a people pleaser to a T.
Which is why it's like, I'm just Steve and we're talking about labels. Like I live the labels. Right. And so
that is definitely a label that I have a hard time with, is people pleasing. I like bend over backwards to make anything happen.
Yeah.
So that people like me.
Yeah. Has that always been a thing for you? Like since you were little?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't know. It's just something that I'm working on it for sure. It's interesting. I do feel like moving to Tampa has given me a little bit more confidence in myself. I don't know what it is. Yeah. I've heard this thing called like the Tampa girl effect. I don't know.
Oh, so, okay. Let's, what is this? We might need to Google this thing. I don't know. I probably shouldn't Google it.
Yeah, don't Google it.
But why don't you tell us the PG version or whatever?
Well, yeah, no, and it's not anything like too weird, I don't think. But basically just, I don't know. I don't know if it's like the sun or everyone in Tampa has been super nice and friendly and everything like that. And I feel more confident being there for some reason. Okay. So,
yeah.
But
I think that is interesting. So, we'll get into let's get into the Tampa because we're there now. Right. And we introduced you guys as like special guests because you're in town for a little bit. But we'll get into the adoption stuff. We'll put that on the shelf. We'll get into that though, because that's important. Let's maybe skip to this thing behind us, right? Yeah. So we have this vision board, right? You guys did not do them before me, correct?
No.
So for anybody that knows me, I am a big vision board person, right? So at Keller Williams way back in the day, I did it was 4-4-3 class. It was like 4 contacts, 4 something, and 3 meetings to equal success, right? Yeah. It was this whole class that you did every Tuesday. But in the class, one of the days was mindset, right? And they played the movie The Secret. I don't know if you guys have watched the movie The Secret.
I don't think so.
But it's basically a documentary and about manifesting. So about the idea of manifesting your future self, right? And I don't know why, but he was a real estate dude, right? But this one guy was on there and he was talking about that he started vision boarding, right? And that was the way he manifested. Some people were affirmation people, some people were journal people. This guy was the vision board, and he went through this process, and then he talked about that he started when he was young, right? No kids, just him. And he started these vision boards. And then 15 years later, he's in his office in Florida, big house. and his like 8-year-old son or something. And I'm probably messing it up, so you guys watch The Secret. But this is my story about it. His son comes in and says, "Dad, what are all those things?" Right? And his dad had all of his vision boards for the last 15 years. And so his dad's like, "Oh, those are my vision boards. You knew that. Like, I have one up here, but those are my old ones." And so he pulled out his old one, and his first one literally was the house he was living in.
Wow.
And I'm getting chills. So with a picture of a boy, right? Oh. And so that just stuck with me. I was like, I am not I'm a goal setter. Like, I like goals, but I like goals in like X amount of this equals X amount of that. Like, I can do that all day long. Mm-hmm. That's math problems to me. It's not really goal oriented in the way that I took. So I gravitated to that idea of this vision board like right away, and was like, I need something I can visually see regular basis every day, or at least once a week, that I can be like, oh wait, I did want to accomplish that this year. Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's always been something that I have done as sort of a leader, when I have people that I'm leading, or when I'm part of an organization that I can help. Vision board has always been a part of that. Mm-hmm. So I haven't done my new one this year. Have you started? Oh, yeah, you guys are going to do that.
We're going to do a class
with your Florida group, right? You and I did a class last year. Mm-hmm. So 4 or 5 years ago, you joined me. Yep. We, in December, did a vision board, and that was your first time doing the vision board. You were super nervous about it, I remember, and like having to tell people.
Having to like talk to everyone about it.
Was that because of talking about it, or was it because of the accountability that you knew might come around it?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both.
Because we would hang them. We hung them at the office for the first couple of years, right? Like, first year until COVID happened. And then we're like, okay, we're not in the office, so you need to take this home and look at it, right? Yep.
Well, it's interesting because Tim and I, before we joined you, we always kind of set goals for ourselves every year. And I remember we would just sit down together, and I would just fill out like a journal of 15 pages, like literally talking through everything. But it was, like you said, more goal oriented. And we would talk a little bit about things we wanted to do. But I think seeing that you could visually display it, it's more inspirational, I think, in a sense, to have it presented that way. And so since then we've done it that way. And
and you guys did your own, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a couples one or just an alone one?
We've never done a couples one.
Yeah. Maybe we should do that this year.
Yeah. I've always done alone ones too, until I just said that. And now I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that too, right? I've done them with the kids, right? Yeah. It would be fun to do. Like, Zion wouldn't really understand it yet, but once he gets to like 8 or so,
for sure,
it is a really cool experience with them.
Yeah.
Because then you really see their hearts. Like, what isn't, like, what do you like to do? What did usually it's like their favorite things they did last year that they just want to do again because they have those memories. But so you 4 years ago. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the really cool thing too about a vision board is it's not necessarily just work goals. Yeah. It really is more of like, what do you envision your life being? And then from that, let's build out a plan of how to reach that.
Yeah.
Which is really important too, because we can all get stuck in like making X or doing X in a year, but why are we doing the things we're doing? Is like, what's the point of wanting to make X? And if it's on that board, that's why. Or maybe it's, you actually don't need to make that much or do that much because that's not even what you want, but you're just being told you need to do that.
Yeah, it's an accountability process to own the true self you that you want to be instead of getting into the real estate, which we all are a part of, world where it says more and many, right? And more and many doesn't necessarily equal happiness, right? So trying to create the vision board hopefully is like, this is my happy space. And then, how much money do I need to equal happy space, right?
Yeah, it's more encompassing of your whole life,
right?
Picture.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. So 4 years ago, this is the new one.
This is the new one from last year.
This is the one that's ending now, and we can talk about how we did. But 4 years ago, what was on there? Do you remember?
Yeah, 4 years ago, I think the main thing that was on there is we really wanted to start a family. And that's something that we had talked about for quite a while. Like I had mentioned, I have congenital heart disease. And so.
And you've had that since a child?
Yeah. I was born with congenital heart defects. So my mom found out literally before I was even born, could see in the womb that I was,
your heart was
my heart was broken. And so they were told, like, she is going to have a very hard life. Things are going to be difficult. She's going to have to take medicine. She's not like, she might not be able to do a lot of things. And so I feel like it's been such a crazy ride. I've been able to basically prove the doctors wrong my entire life. Of course, I do have annual checkups and all of that type of thing. I've had a few open heart surgeries and Did
you have open heart surgeries as a kid too, or no?
Yeah, so they were all as kids. So the first one was when I was I think 10 days old.
Okay. Yeah.
Then the second one was when I was 3.
Yeah.
And then
do you remember that?
No,
okay.
No, not at all. But I remember the earliest memory that I have actually was pulling out my stitches from the surgery.
Okay.
So that's
because you were bored, or
no, that was just something. No, just for fun.
Let me pick at this.
I remember standing in the bathroom with my mom, and I just had to take a few of them out or something. I don't even really remember, but. I just remember, I can specifically visualize, taking out some of the stitches.
Yeah.
And so then throughout the years, I've just had to have annual checkups and stuff like that. Yeah. And they basically, the only way I've really been limited has been more through exercise, sports, those type of things. They're don't overwork your heart.
Yeah.
Don't go on roller coasters, the adrenaline,
Okay.
And so that might be a little bit where the people pleasing aspect, I'm just thinking of that as being told what to do and then feeling like I have to live up to this standard of not getting myself
too excited
or unsafe or anything like that.
So is that
following a rule?
Because you've had to protect yourself, you want to protect others and please them?
I think I try to make people as comfortable as I possibly can.
Okay.
I think is my motivation of I don't want to cause any type of discomfort for people.
Okay. Because you're afraid of the discomfort of yourself if you were to exude yourself too much.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Probably it was right after we got married. My surgery is relatively newer in the sense that I think it was 10 years old by the time that I had it.
Yeah.
So now they're discovering that more issues with my actual surgery. The third, when I was 3. It's called the Fontan.
Okay.
If you ever want to look it up, people.
Yeah.
So
some surgeon that's named Fontan did it for the first time. And then okay.
Yeah. So I got it done at U of M, but basically what they're finding now is the Fontan, because of the different pressures that it creates from the blood flow and all of that, it's causing scarring to a bunch of my organs.
Okay.
So now I have to get liver checkups, kidney checkups,
there's not enough blood going to your other organs then, ultimately?
No, there's enough blood. It's just causing pressure, I guess. So it causes scarring. I don't know actually exactly what's going on.
Well, and sometimes it's do we really want to know?
No, and that's a little bit of an avoidance thing too. Yeah.
It's am I okay?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to keep going?
Yep.
Right.
So they were thinking of having a third surgery that would basically reverse the effects of this. So at the time we got married, they were talking, they were calling Tim on the phone about it, and he's like, I don't know, I thought she was fine. But
Tinder doesn't have that in when you're swiping, it doesn't say
I have that in my bio.
Triggered.
And so ultimately I decided I didn't want to be a guinea pig and sign up for this, surgery or anything like that. So I'm just still being monitored.
We went through all the testing.
Yeah. Yep. All the testing.
To see if it would be an option and things like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when she was transitioning from her peds doctor that she's had her whole life. And then she was switching to a new adult because he was retiring. And I think he was just getting everything off his chest and was like, I'm retiring. This is all of the things I know about the Fontan. Let's explore.
Right.
And we did all the exploring, and the new doctor was like, no, we're good.
Yeah.
Like we
don't mess with
it. Like we don't know what this will cause either.
Right.
So why do
if you're living life healthy, like why mess with it, right? For a potential of.
Right. Exactly.
So Tim, how did you handle that being a new spouse? Like here you are on a new marriage, she's got this hard thing, but like you're thrown in like in your first year being like, oh, like I have to make life and death decisions with my wife now.
Yeah.
Right?
We're like what, 24,
yeah,
25?
You're young. Yeah. So how did you, are you just calm and collected all the time? Or how did you manage that space?
I like to try to stay calm and collected. I have my moments. I think everyone does.
Yeah.
But I think I try to just look at the big picture too and like get the data and read. Like,
you like
I am not a medical person. And I remember the first time the doctor was like drawing a lot of these diagrams. I was like, what in the world are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like I was not a great student in school and I was like, this is crazy stuff. So yeah, just honestly reading, doing more research. Even we had our heart appointment yesterday and they were talking about all these new medicines and like options. And I was like, you need to slow down. How do you spell these things for us?
I'm recording you, but like say them slowly.
Say them slow. You're saying way too fast.
We should start recording her.
I was like, I'm not a good speller. Spell that to me slow so I can Google it and then I can have it and we can kind of look
at it. The AI recorders, guys.
Yeah.
If you're into it right now, you need to just push record and then it will like give you all the notes and like put it into a really cool thing. Yeah.
So I think
he did really well.
I think I tried to do very well.
Yeah.
I think at that time did we transition to real estate at that time?
You were in real estate.
Yeah, I think we had just transitioned into real estate. So we had some flexibility to be able to go to the doctors and do the things that we needed to do, which I'm very grateful for. And I think we've really tried to manage it together the best we can.
Yeah.
With her worrying and me trying to be calm about it and say we have to trust these doctors and the things.
Yeah. So was it stressful yesterday? Is it stressful going to the doctor meeting every year?
It's weird because I feel like normally I am not that stressed. I literally cried the entire time the other day. Yeah. I don't know. What
was overwhelming about it this time compared to others? Is it being a mom with Zion that adds pressure?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think, so long story short, the thing now, I'm still being monitored. Everything looks great. However, if anything does end up going south, my option is heart and liver transplant, which I do know someone who was 36 or 37 who I've met on like Instagram and stuff that, who just had it a year ago. Okay. So like that terrified.
Both the transplants?
Had both it because they won't just do my liver because my heart will ruin it again. So it's just, I think like the weight of I kind of ignore it all until I have the appointment.
Yeah.
And then it just hits me. And I think it does add a level of having Zion now, of being a mom and feeling like obviously I don't want anything to happen to me that's going to.
Right.
Yeah. And up until probably 6 or 7 years ago, you had surgery and really it was these yearly appointments. And there wasn't much communication about it or talking about it. Like it was like Danielle's had this thing.
To be like, you're boring, you can go.
That's it. Okay. And then really
is it because medicine has changed?
Yeah. So in the last 10 years is because everyone who's had the surgeries at Danielle's age now, they're gathering all this data and seeing what the effects are.
Got it.
So that's where all of these, like, we are now pescatarians because it's better for the liver to keep that clean. Like doing all the things that we can to help keep things as healthy as possible. I will say, and then like the one thing that I'm also kind of proud of, I don't know if that's the right word, but her previous doctor was like, you can't go to the mountains. And obviously we went to the mountains.
Right.
We can talk about that too.
Yeah.
But, and I was like, well, why can't we go to the mountains? Like, it's beautiful. Like you should be able to go to the mountains.
Yeah.
So
like you got to live too, right?
Right.
Like, there's a fine balance, right? Which I think is that label, right? The doctors are gonna, Like when I was a kid, the doctors labeled me certain things. And then it's like, okay, I get it, but I want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what, like, not that, like, I don't want to disregard what you're saying, but like, where is my soul in it? And then my soul creates health for myself, right? Like if my brain and my soul are not healthy, my body is not going to survive either, right? Like I can't have the
mental health struggle of it all for sure. That has affected me.
Yeah. So we agreed to stay. We had to just sleep under 8,500 feet.
Okay.
So doable in most places. Very easy, very doable. And
how to stay super hydrated, which I was just like super on top of it.
Yeah.
Well, and they got those oxygen things now. Like, I mean, they got all the things, right? We could, So you guys did that, right?
I was like, let's go, let's do this.
Right.
Like,
you're not doing the hiking with Tim though.
No,
right?
no. Well, and we brought the dogs too, so like they were very limited of what they were allowed to go to. So a lot of the things that they could go on would just be like a mile or whatever, and then I would go do that, and then he would do more of the elevation gain, big ones and stuff like that. So, but it was still cool for me to be able to like see it all and everything like that.
To experience it.
Yeah.
I think I've been good at pushing a little bit more for Danielle of like, let's try something. Let's do some stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because you don't want to live with those regrets either because the label holds you back, right?
Yep.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, I can't do all these things. Not that you want to do something stupid, right? No. But yeah, like let's go sleep one night at 8,500 feet. And then if I'm not okay, then we'll go back.
Yeah.
Right. But like, it's amazing how much fear from those labels or diagnosis or whatever can hold us back from just trying that thing for, you could drive up for half an hour and be like, no, I'm not feeling it. Let's go back.
I definitely felt it in Colorado when we were driving through it because it was higher. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And you felt it in California. I think we stayed at like 7,800 feet. And you could just tell too, like you felt more fatigued, more tired. I would say we pushed it a little bit at the end.
Danielle, are you open when Tim's like, we should try this? Like, is that hard for you to agree to? Or are you like, I trust this dude, let's do it?
I would say that has been like a major source of growth throughout the years for sure. Because
in your relationship?
Yeah, because I think initially, and again, like I feel like this is all connected with the people pleasing thing. The people pleasing thing kind of goes with like rule following. I think like I want to follow the rules so that I don't jeopardize anything. Or like, oh, my doctors told me I shouldn't do that. So I shouldn't do that because if I die or something happens, like it's going to be my fault. And then like, I'm going to let people down or whatever. I don't know. Like, I think more about like that. But I think that Tim has really been able to push me. And I think, I just get the fear out of the way for me a little bit. So
and Tim, like you were a rebel as a kid, right? If I remember, didn't you have like a nose ring or something, like or a motorcycle? A motorcycle. I knew there was something.
I did have a little like cartilage piercing.
I did have
cartilage. See, I knew there was a piercing, and a motorcycle.
Piercings and a motorcycle.
Yeah. So there's a little streak in you, even though like you're all buttoned up now and everything, right? Like there's a little bit of like, let's try.
Like, he likes to challenge things a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's been a good motivation for me, I think. And then I try the things and I'm fine. And I'm like, okay,
I can trust.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Cool. So, Vision Board 2020.
we totally got off track with that.
That's what all these are. Ask Paul. Like, with Kick yesterday, he's like, I don't know if we talked about anything we had planned on. And I'm like, it doesn't. He's like, this is fun. We're random. And I'm like, like you should know me by now. Like, this is how we work.
Yeah.
So, but I do try to bring it back a little bit. So 2020 Vision Board.
Yes.
No baby.
So
but idea of a baby.
Yeah. So the whole point of me sharing the whole story with my health is we had made the decision that year, pretty much like right before we joined you, that we had went to my heart doctors, had like all these case studies of Fontans who have had, carried babies themselves and everything like that. And again, like we waited because it was like, I don't want to give into the fear of it, but also I want to be the healthiest version I can be for a baby. Also, a lot of women who are Fontans that have pregnancies, the baby is born like super, super early, or they're in the NICU for forever, you know, a lot of different things. So we had decided we wanted to adopt. So that was like the main focus on our vision board that year is, okay, we were just moving into a new house. We were starting a new brokerage, and we had kind of gotten to the point in our career where I felt like we were like, okay,
you're stable.
We're stable, we're established. And what are we going to do next? It's the family thing. So that was the big
which is West Michigan, right? It's very common, right? To be like, okay, like let's get established, let's get married. And then like, what does this look like? Right. So, adoption was on the radar. And so that was 2020, had COVID was 2020. Right?
That was not on the vision board.
I don't think anybody had that one on the vision board. Right. And that was horrible for you.
Horrible.
Right. Like, let's be honest. Right. Like with your heart, your doctor's like, don't go out. That
was like extremely triggering, I think, because of
the comfort thing.
I felt like I was trying to live a little bit more. And then it's like, okay, you don't even like go anywhere.
Even live, right? Yeah. You made Tim like hose down literally in the garage, right? When we were available to go show houses again, almost for at least 6 months, if not longer. Tim had to hose off, and
I think the crazy part too. That's when she started connecting with other Fontan patients.
Okay,
and it was across the board. Like it wasn't
everyone had that trigger.
Like it wasn't like. This is our West Michigan doctors and her doctors. It was every Fontan every heart patient who had the Fontan was being told the same thing.
Like, don't go out.
New York to California to down south, like across, like.
Which was validating in the sense that I wasn't being crazy, but was also scary in the sense that they were also hearing the same thing.
Yeah, everyone's scared together. Yeah.
But that was, I connected with actually one of my best friends now over Instagram during that time. And she lives in New York. And so she also had been told by her doctor that like a Fontan really shouldn't have a baby. So again, that was like validating for our journey. She was going through the process of
surrogacy.
Having a surrogate. And so she was getting egg retrieval and all of that type of thing. And Tim and I were stuck at home, obviously not doing anything. And Tim was like, let's just drive down to Florida. So we drove down to Florida in November of 2020.
Yeah, because Florida was open. It was one of the states that.
Which I still wasn't doing anything. But I was like, at least we can be in the sun and we can have
rented a house with a pool. Could do all the things. Brought the dogs.
But that was when we kind of really talked about, okay, COVID has postponed all of this, everything we want to do with adoption. Like, do we still want to start this process? We did. Over that trip is when we talked about it, and we really like sat down and started the adoption process. Signed up, everything like that.
With a Florida agency,
so
lawyer,
Georgia. I think it was Georgia,
but they covered like southern states.
Okay.
And it was multi-agency, so it was like we were working with we could work with a lot of different agencies or lawyers and stuff down south.
Right.
So I think we signed up for maybe like 5 or 6.
And you say sign up, that means like you're paying
your
a
application.
Fee,
I think we just had to pay the application fee for those because you really don't pay the sum of the money until you get matched. So
So started in
2020.
And at 2020, we like are all in. We should adopt, and Florida is like on the horizon, right? 2021 then is.
We were just focused on selling. I feel like in 2021, that was like one of our biggest years.
Busy.
We
kept getting. It was great. Tim likes money and safety and security, and it was great.
It was great. It
was just
It was a good time.
It was a really good year for everyone. Always asked too, like, well, what was 2021 like in real estate? Like that had to have been like hard too. And I always say that's still when a lot of people worked from home. So we had this like awesome balance of being super, super busy and showing and really like
But people didn't want to see like 100 houses, right? They wanted to only see the couple because they were afraid of the COVID.
And everyone was still working from home. So everyone was like, we can leave at lunch.
Yeah.
We can leave at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, that was before they had to check in where they were working, right?
Yeah. It wasn't like just all booked at night. It was like we could spread it throughout the week. We were busy, but we could still like go on the boat. We were making money to like save up for the adoption.
Right? When we bought the boat in 20 or 21?
2020.
Yeah. That boat was part of the like getting outside world too, right? Trying to find some space for the two of you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 2021 was just like selling. We did, so they call them situations. We would get adoption situations like sent to our email of like, hey, do you want to apply to this to be considered?
Yeah.
We applied to, I think, like 3 or 4 that year. And they honestly, that was really hard too, because it was, we would apply and then wait, meaning like the birth mom would take up to, one time it was literally like a month of her decide. So, and the baby, like in one circumstance, the babies were already born, they were twins. And so we were like, are we going to be parents tomorrow? Like it just was so.
Yeah, I remember that being foster dad too, right? Where you get the phone call at 8 o'clock at night, like, do you want these kids or that kid?
Yeah.
And you would say yes, right? But then you wouldn't find out till like the next morning or the 24 hours later.
So
like,
it's just like all this anxiety.
Are we not? And if you are, like, where do you got to go?
Yeah. Of like, oh, our whole lives could change in an instant, but really we're still living the day to day.
We would get the emails and it was between like that she was deciding between us and like 2 or 3 other couples.
So someone's life is
life is changing, and it's going to be at some point. We don't know when. We're all sitting waiting on.
We're all looking at our phones.
Like every email is this the email. Type of thing.
Yeah.
So those
was that challenging for you guys in your relationship, or no? Like the constant back and forth of waiting.
I feel like it brought us a little bit closer together. I feel like it was hard to explain to other people who hadn't been through the adoption process, which I think was like super unique about being with you, too, and the agents that we were around, being involved in foster care and adoption and so many different people during that time to be able to lean on during that was really, honestly a blessing. So, but yeah, I think it didn't cause like animosity or like hardships for us. If anything, it brought us together. Just more, it was just difficult to go through for sure.
Did you, so back to the vision boards, did you see each of these years it playing out, or did you get discouraged at times because you're like, wait, we put that on the vision board in 2020 and now it's 2022?
No, I was like 1000% discouraged. Like
because I don't want to give like this, like, flowery thing about these things, right? Like, let's be honest, right? Like you put what your goals are and your vision for your life, but life does have a way of effing it up at times, right? And the world isn't like we have choices, right? But not always are the choices like on us, right? We the three of us believe in a higher power, right? And so our timing is not always his timing, right? And so, like these are great, but you have to go into it knowing that
challenges,
maybe only 50%, right? Maybe only 70%. But if the idea of manifesting isn't like, and I think I'm not a big scholar of the Bible. I should like have verses, right? But I don't. But ultimately, I think like, his timing is his timing, right? And so for us to say, oh, I'm going to believe in this thing of an adoption.
That's going to happen like next month.
And it's going to happen this year because I've prayed enough about it. And I believe you're calling me to that. Yeah. Right. But like my heart and me might not be ready for that. Like, that I'm not ready for that. I think I'm good. Let's do this. Right. Like, I don't want to assume that it's all good. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's not necessarily right. Like things are playing out. We got a boat. We're in Florida. Yep. We're growing in relationship, but like our hearts are also broken with each of these matches as we be told no, like, and the discouragement comes, right, and creeps in of like, are we ever, right? I remember those feelings of, a couple kids coming and going and thinking like, oh man, like I would have loved that child.
Yes.
I loved that child.
Yes.
I want, why is that child not with me now? Right. Kind of a thing. Right. So,
so many feelings with that for sure.
Yeah. So, journey wise, let's jump into the hard one. Right. So 2022, we get matched.
Finally matched.
Yeah.
We were
to a baby
at home,
in
baby girl.
Florida, right?
Yep. And I remember that moment specifically, when we matched, we were so excited. We went and told both of our families.
Yeah. I remember that phone call. Yeah.
She wasn't due for a few months, so we had quite a long time to prepare as far as we got everything. We had a baby shower. We decorated the nursery for her.
I did someone here helped us hand wallpaper.
I loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
So we got all the things. We had all the things ready.
Yeah.
We had been down to appointments and
you had met her or no? You had met her, right? You were really in a relationship in a way with her, right? You were communicating on a pretty regular basis about her goals
for sure.
and your goals, those kind of things, right?
Yep. No doubt in our minds that she wouldn't be coming home with us. So ultimately,
you get a call that she's being born, right?
Yeah. So we got a call that she was being born and that she decided to parent. So,
but you went down, right?
We were in Florida waiting.
Yeah. You went down the week before you thought the time was, or you got the call and you went down.
We were already down.
Yep. So we went and set up.
Yeah, because
probably a week.
You knew it was in this time frame of a week.
We knew our due day.
Let's just not have to
get settled.
Get settled, not have to have that.
Yeah.
Rush down there and do the things.
Yeah.
And
it was a tough 48 hours then.
Yeah,
right? Baby's born.
We had been kind of waiting for the birth, and we hadn't heard anything that day. And we got a call from our attorney and was like,
the attorney was the person that was helping connect the dots.
Yes.
They were in a way the adoption agency's representative.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
And really just kind of told us hey, Tim and Danielle, this is what's going on. We don't know what the next couple of hours and 48 hours are going to hold.
And what was going on was the mom was not sure if she was deciding that she
wanted to bring her home.
She was deciding that after.
It sounded like she was deciding to bring her home.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the adoption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you at all made aware that could occur, or did they just not in foster, it's different, right? For me, for foster, it was the goal of foster is to take care of these children for the parents.
To get reunited.
For them to hopefully the parents get to a place that they could have the children back and get reunited. That doesn't happen as often as it should, but that is the goal, right?
Yep.
So
it was definitely made aware, but it was also very much communicated this is the plan and it's not going to change.
Yeah.
That was everyone's goal. Was this is not going to change.
Yeah. And you were talking to the mom, why would you think it otherwise?
This is why we're doing what we're doing. This is the plan. And so it was very much a punch in the gut, essentially. Nope, I changed.
Yeah.
Which obviously it's well within the rights and everything. Yeah. And we just want what's best for her and still do to this day. It was just a very much we had already brought her into our home and felt like she was in our arms and never was actually.
Yeah.
And it was a very much
it was horrible.
It was a horrible time.
Yeah.
We were in Florida with no family, really no friends.
Yeah. And you guys said the heart thing, I'm not going to downplay that, but you hadn't gone, Danielle, but you hadn't gone through real hardship yet, right? Your families were generally good.
That was
the West Michigan stable lives, right?
Yeah,
and all of a sudden we're in something that is feeling and was death, right? Felt like death, I'm assuming, right?
For sure. That's what it felt like. It was a huge loss of someone we thought was going to your daughter. So,
right.
Death of a dream. Death of,
Do you still think of her as your daughter?
A little bit. We still call her by. We still call her by her name that we had. Her.
Yeah.
Do you talk about her?
Yeah.
Quite often.
Do you ever get pictures or get to see? Like, do you follow them on?
So Danielle does more pictures than me. We also
that you'll see pictures or you get them from the mom or from?
So she has another adoptive family too involved in their lives.
So
and we're friends with that adoptive family.
The other adoptive family that has some of the other siblings.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll she'll talk with that mom still and get pictures and updates and things like that.
Yeah.
For through there. So I would say,
you try not to, Tim? You don't want to be involved?
I don't. She actually, I think just asked like a week ago.
Yeah. I was like,
I got a new picture. Did you want to? And I was like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because it's too emotional to.
I think it's too emotional for me. Yeah. And I don't know if I just, Men
are better at compartmentalizing, I think, right? Like I can, you sort of say, okay, I'm going to put that on the shelf. It's not necessarily healthy, but we're able to do that a little better than I think females are in general. But yeah, I mean, she's God's child, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that God intended you to be part of her life for that period. She didn't have, she wasn't part of your, she's not part of your lives now, but I do believe that, like, I know you spent a lot of money, right? Which was hard, right? And felt violating, and some promises and expenses. But I think
I had to come to the realization that if we were the parents for those 3 or 4 months and we had to do what we needed to do to help provide during those 3 to 4 months, we did our part.
Yeah. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say is like that was your
role in
your role in her life to set her up for whatever her future looks like.
And
you were needed for that period, right? Like, don't disregard, even though, again, I know that was very violating or felt very violating in that time of like, here's our promises. We fulfilled our obligations. You're not, right? Yeah. But I do think of that, like, hey, like even with each of these foster children that we had in our lives before Nico and Peyton became full-time with us, was like, okay, like I only had like a weekend or I only had whatever period of time with that child. But that's what was intended for me, right? That's what I had to, that's what I was asked to do, right? And you guys were asked to take care of the mom so that she could have the healthy baby.
Yeah. And I still very much feel like we're going to meet her someday. I don't know why, but I just do. Yeah. So hopefully.
Well, you will, right? Like in this life or another life, I think you will, right? And so, but I could see that being difficult, Tim, right? To be like, okay, like how do I want to participate in those things? Because there are many things that I'm like, no, I don't need to hear about that, or I don't need to be involved in that, right? Whatever that is. Yeah. Even though it probably would be healthy for me too. I was just like, nope, that's too tough. I'm going to put that here. I don't want to unpack that right now, ultimately. So, so I remember those calls, right? Of this, Tim Miller, sort of in panic of like, how do I protect Danielle? Right? How do I emotionally figure this out? And so my suggestion was go find a mountain or go, right? Like, why are you coming back? You were going to come back and just sell real estate. Yeah. If I remember correctly.
Well,
right? We did.
We came back and I think we sold like 4 houses.
Yeah.
And by it was a combination of mostly Danielle and you and Rachel.
Yeah.
I was checked out very much so.
Yeah.
I think I remember we were driving in the car. I think we had a listing appointment. This was like 2 or 3 weeks after we had a listing appointment. We were trying to get like back into the swing of things, and we called Rachel. And I think we were both maybe it was just me crying. Yeah. Probably. Maybe you too. And we were sitting in the office on the couch, and I was like, I cannot go here and put on a smile and sell a house. Yeah. Like I can't. And that's when we were like, we're going out west. Like we're done. Like I'm sorry, Danielle, like I need this. And I think this is what we need. So thankfully you and Rachel picked up some of our, a lot of our slack that year for us. And
that's what our job was, right? There was a period of a year, that we covered for you and for Paul that was getting married, right? And then Miss Tanis, Mr. Tanis, there was maybe 2 years.
We had a lot of trauma in the office.
There was,
we packed,
that was worth it.
Yeah. So that's really when we packed up the car, mapped out a whole like route and headed out west where everyone goes to find themselves.
We went to like 5 national parks, I think.
How long were you there again?
I think like almost 20 days.
I think 20 days.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of it was driving because we're in Michigan out to California and back.
Yeah.
But we made the most of it. I think we were able to hit a lot in that 20 days. We went to Utah first. Yeah. So we went to Bryce Canyon, Zion, and then we were at like the bottom so we could go to Grand Canyon. And then we headed to California and did like Mammoth Lake.
Yeah. John Muir Wilderness.
Yeah.
And then Yosemite. And then on the way back, we're like, should we go through Yellowstone?
So we hit Yellowstone was a very quick, definitely want to get back out there. We hit Yellowstone, like it was shutting down for the winter. Because you can't, once it snows there, you can't get through it. So we hit it like they had already had a big snowfall and they were like, this is your last day. And we just pretty much drove through
it.
And out the other side.
This is kind of a theme that I'm seeing, which is cool. And Kik and I talked about it yesterday. This idea of grounding. He's big into the actual grounding where you're taking off your socks and shoes and walking. Like he golfs now without his shoes on. Kind of a thing, right? The grounding, but also like how nature heals and how nature grounds. And he asked me about my divorce and I talked about my like mental breakdown during COVID, right? And me taking the boys and going to South Dakota. Like I needed to find mountains. Like I needed to find open spaces that were quiet to be able to actually try to see inside my own head. Like I couldn't see inside my own head at that point, right? So you guys did the same, right? This idea, or Tim led that, and you were like, "Yep, Tim needs this. I'm gonna support it. Let's try this thing." What is it about that space, Tim, for you that like you have found obviously 20 days is not enough to fully unpack all the things that you did, but what did that do for you? I think of like the audience that there are many people that are sitting in the trauma right now, right? And that don't feel like they have a choice, right? Luckily for me and for you, we had the financial ability to choose. I could choose just to take something. South Dakota didn't cost me more than $1,000, I don't think. By the time I drove out there and we, we're at a KOA in a tent, it wasn't expensive, right? It just was like, go somewhere. People put a lot of money thought into like big trips and it's not as expensive as you think if you're willing to drive. But what is it about that, or what was it about that period of those 20 days that created healing or the start of healing for you? And what is that, like the mountain analogy or the grounding analogy? Does that ring true for you?
Yeah, I think it gives. So in West Michigan, we do not have true mountains.
Yeah, we got water.
We have water and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But how big mountains are and the red rocks and like the vastness and how nature is just so big and unique in different places. And I specifically picked very hard hikes for myself when I was out there.
Yeah.
So that I could go very long, lots of elevation.
Yeah.
And make it hard on myself. I think there's a quote from someone who said, essentially like, if you are in a hard time, walk yourself to sleep.
Interesting.
And that's what I did.
I like that a lot. Say that again.
Walk yourself to sleep.
If you're in a hard time, walk yourself to sleep.
So essentially that's what he did. And out west in Zion actually just went until he couldn't walk anymore, pitched his tent and slept. So like there's something about just tiring yourself out in nature where your phone very limited works. Like I had to download the maps. Like it doesn't really work. You don't have any distractions. Like you're only goal for the day is one foot
walk
forward, up and back.
Yeah, it simplifies things, right? Like for me,
get bit by a snake.
Yeah, I was talking to Steve about this. Yeah, it just simplifies the. Yeah, but you don't think about. You don't think about snakes and bears when you're just walking. I didn't, at least, like when I was out west or anywhere when I'm hiking. I'm just walking. Like it literally, you strap on the backpack and you start going. The only times I think is when I'm in like a situation where I'm like, this is way past my skill set. I should not be here.
Yeah.
Kirk Hoffman has put me in those situations a couple times.
I think
out east, but
my only time was in California. I got to the trailhead, no cars, and no one was around.
Yeah.
And I think I was like 3 miles or 4 miles into the wilderness, and there was bear marks on trees. And I was like, no cell phone service.
Yeah.
I think I usually did a pretty good job of being like
tracking you as
a good job of like, this is where I'm going to be at. But I was like, shoot, I'm high. Like, and this is rocky, and there's bear tracks and bear things. And
if I'm going to go, this would be a spot that
even if I roll my ankle, like what is going to happen? Thankfully, I had my trusty dog Mile with me. And I was like, she could make it back and find some. But I don't remember where we were at.
But the idea of the mountains or the hike, like the healing power in that, like for those that maybe have never gone hiking, right? Or they like, what is that for you? Like, why do you strive for that so much?
Wow. Do you know?
I don't hike. I just look at the beauty. Yeah. See, I don't have that as much, like where you guys are like, I become unaware and I'm just like in the quietness and can like think through things. Like I am very aware when I'm on a hike of what's going on, and it stresses me out. But like for me, it's more just like looking at everything and being in the car safe. But just it creates like a quiet space that is so much different from what we can experience from day to day. There's just always a million things to do. And when you're out, I don't know, the journey of obviously like we've compared this and we can get to this point too, but like our son's name is Zion, which means the top of the mountain. And so it was kind of like all the things that led to him were hard. But then once we reached the top, it was worth the view, worth the challenge, worth the...
Yeah, I think that the just the mountain so my counselor always is like, hey dude, every 90 days you need to find a mountain. And that doesn't necessarily mean like go to the mountains, even though I want him to say that that's what I'm required to do, because that would be great. But the idea of the mountain for me or the trail for me is where I can breathe and think, right? That I get 30 minutes in or 15 minutes in. And Ellen Grace always laughs because she can't go more than a mile either. She, like when we first started dating, we went for like a 3-mile hike, and she says that it's 10, it was 3. Maybe it was 6, but somewhere in between her, like it was 25 and my 3 was the reality, right? And she put up with it, but afterwards I could tell like she has a heart issue too, not the same as yours, but so she's like, okay, that was ridiculous. But she knows, like for me, like I go, 10 minutes in and I breathe. Like, that's why I know you guys love Saugatuck Dunes State Park, right? Like even that with all the people, it doesn't like if I get halfway, I get a quarter of a mile or a half a mile. And all of a sudden it's like, you know, but taking kids is a different world, right? Because they don't relax as much as you, right? And it's like, oh man, like this is fun. You guys should relax with me. And they're like, when are we going to get there? So we then moved through this period of life, and now we have a beautiful boy. Like he's the cutest freaking kid ever. I mean, he is really cute. I like the man bun. I actually can get the hair back in the man bun again right now. So someday maybe we're gonna have to hang out with Zion and compare, but he will be way cuter, of course.
He's so cute.
You got matched again then, and that was what, like 8 months later? How? Like,
no, it was 3.
Pretty quick.
It was really fast.
Yeah, like you guys got back from your journey.
Yeah, we got back from our trip, and then pretty much, it was actually my 30th birthday. Okay. Got a phone call from our attorney, and
late.
Yeah, we looked at the time this year. I think it was like 9:50 at night or something like that.
I love that 9:50 is late. Yeah.
Well, it was like she's like, "Happy birthday!" Also, surprise.
Yeah.
And so the next day he was born, and
you flew down.
We flew down this time.
Yeah,
we flew down,
and then
very quickly.
Yeah.
Honestly, we still had most. We had most of our stuff all still in suitcases. We hadn't dealt with most of that.
Yeah.
So most of our stuff was in suitcases.
Yeah.
I think we each threw in like 3 outfits. I wore the same things, sweatshirt and shorts for a month.
Yeah.
And
and he's how old now?
He's 2.
He just turned 2. Yeah. The cute little 2-year-old birthday party. Yeah.
He's the best. He's full of energy and wild.
Very much a boy.
It's a little chatterbox.
Yeah.
So he's the best.
Yeah. What has he added to your lives that you didn't realize that you missed, that you like now like are so grateful for?
So much. I don't know. I feel like just it's like a whole different type of love when you have a child, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just so much more joy. I think adds like curiosity because he's just so curious of everything, and take life a little less seriously because I'm very much a perfectionist, and sometimes like things are just not going to be perfect with a toddler. And so just kind of giving the freedom in that. And then I don't know, I just feel like we're in the prime of his age right now, and just all the fun things that he's getting into and we're able to enjoy with him together has been great.
Mm-hmm. I think it also gives perspective of now we're watching another human grow, and like, what do we want
for
him, or what would we hope for him?
Yeah.
So even with us, like going to Florida this year, like we had those conversations of like, this is a big move, like moving away from our families, going down there. And I was like, we sat down and I was like, well, if Zion was our age, would we want him to feel like he could go after something?
Yeah.
Even if he fails.
Yeah.
What
are we showing him?
Like, we could go down there and this might not work out, but at least we tried.
Yeah.
And that's all we would want for him, is to be like, here's an opportunity, go for it. And if it doesn't work out, you have somewhere to come back to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think just the majority, Tim, not so much, but the majority of my life has been dictated by fear. And like, again, I've been on a journey of growing in that, but I think that's not what we want for Zion at all. And so we're trying to, we're like anti that. We're like, we want him to just be adventurous and explore as much as he can.
We're definitely like the parents who don't use like, be careful ever.
Like watch your
very, very rarely. Like, it's like if you're up on the edge of, I mean, like Clyde on our islands and things, and we're like, well, where's your edge?
Yeah.
But like, what are you doing up here? Like, what's your plan?
Yeah.
Like, and not like,
we just don't want to like scare him.
And does it cause some pain, and is our house a mess because he's all over the place? 1000%.
Right.
Do we go out? We go out to restaurants and he's scaling the side of a fence instead of playing with all the little kids? Yep.
Yeah. But that's a life that you want to create for him.
Yeah.
Allowing him that freedom. Ultimately. Yeah.
You only have so young. I feel like you only have so many years of like exploring and figuring out things.
Yeah.
And like, let's just let him be a kid. Like whatever.
As being a parent, did that adjust the way that you see God and your faith?
Yeah.
I didn't know we were getting into this topic today.
Well, I get into whatever topic comes into my head. But I remember being a father for the first time, and Elliot, which is downstairs at the coffee shop, I might get him on the podcast. He's now 16, right? He doesn't snuggle with me anymore. But I remember that first, and I think you sent me a picture of you and Zion, that first skin to skin moment where they're tucked into your chest, and you're thinking, oh, like I am responsible. And oh, wow, like this is what God means in the Bible about being a father. Like I didn't get it until that moment, right? Abba Father was not I grew up in the church, right? You get the thing, but when you become a mom or a dad and you're responsible for another life, you realize, oh, wait, those analogies or those messages within the Bible have a different meaning. Like they just are real. Like there's a life that combined here for me to understand your love.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think Tim and I are both kind of in a journey in that of as far as like, especially me, have taken everything super literally and again, like rules, where now we're trying to see it more as, like you said, just like general ways of living or, having that
religion as in rules is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And so
you grew up in a rule mindset of religion, which is West Michigan.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And a little bit of like trauma, I would say, with that. So I've just been working through that, I would say. But I think we're just more, we don't want that for Zion to be like, to look at it the way that I have looked at it for so long. Yeah. And the fear aspect of it all. So that's something that we've also been seeing with him is like, how can we demonstrate what God is without the way that I had always perceived it.
Without religion?
A little bit without religion. Yeah.
And that seems to be, and we'll get into you because I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. I can see your mind stirring. But this seems to be an interesting thing that I perceive as happening within lots of people since COVID.
Yeah.
And friends, and obviously myself, I don't go to church anymore, right? And I was deacon of a big church in town, right? And I went on that journey where I thought, like, you do these things and then you are the ultimate of Christian, right? Yep. These check marks to be the best Christian dude you could be, right? And then I got a divorce, and now I'm whatever those labels are now, right? And they were different labels that I thought I had to accomplish before. Then now I'm like, oh, why did I choose those labels? Why, okay, well, that was part of my trauma from my mom, right? But it's interesting to see each person that I know that grew up within those in West Michigan, but this can be other places as well, but within the rule-based faith, religion kind of side. And then trying to say, okay, well, I still believe, but how do I unpack what, instead of religious rules, how do I unpack a life that is worth living as that kind of a human that I want to be, right?
Yeah. Like we've talked about before, and I think like it can, just going back to even Tim in the Mountains, it's like we feel more of a spiritual experience, like doing things like that. Than in church as well, right? At least at this point in our life. So Tim, you were like, are we really going to get into this? We don't have a lot of time, so we don't have to go super far in. Like a journey for us too. We're working.
I think someone from North Point at the time said this to me, and I think it still resonates. And it's, do you believe what you believe because you believe it, or because you've been told to believe that?
What is faith compared to...
And I think that's been probably where we both have been at, is like, for our entire lives, we've been told, like, this is what you have to believe. Like, and these are the rules that come with believing it this way. And when you really, like, start, like, I never read anything different. I never looked at anything different, or at a different lens is a word you use. And like, there's different, what's the word? There's different views of how things can be interpreted, and there's different ways to interpret things. And I think you have to come up with what your truth is.
I feel like we've both been like, I feel like we've put God in a box our whole lives of what he is because of what we've thought, where he's almost like way bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. The rules defined the thing of God, right?
Yeah.
For you, if you went through catechism or you did profession of faith or, Baptist, whatever that was, like those rules confined the beauty and the bigness of it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that a good way?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The mountains help with that, right? Like you get in the mountains, you're like, holy crap. Like, this is like big.
Yes.
And there's something behind the big.
Yes.
Right. Kind of a thing.
Yep.
So, that's an interesting journey. I have Sue on next, and she's an elder now at LaGrave, which is like one of the oldest school CRC churches. And she's I know they're going through a lot of learning about, gay and same-sex marriage, and how does the Christian Reformed Church deal with that, right? And other denominations. So I probably will get into this a little bit with her because she's very wise, because she just loves humans, right? But anyways, so we have like 10 or 15 minutes left, and I don't want to disregard at all the moment you sit at, because I can't be more proud of you two. I just want you to know that. Like for me, like this idea of being a part of your lives, starting at Vision Boards 2020, 2019 to now see you two blossoming, and just growing is just freaking amazing. And I'm really happy I could be a little part of that experience. But before we started talking, Tim, I asked, like, is there anything you want to talk about or anything that's important? And so I want to talk about Florida, but ultimately, like, how did that occur? And then how was it, again, it's just a huge growing moment, because I never saw you in this role that you're doing now. Like if I could picture Tim and Danielle, Florida was always like on the horizon, and I always was like, just do it, right? I think I don't remember ever not being like, go for it. Like if you can do it, especially now when you're younger and kids and stuff like that. But I wrote it down, and you said you want to talk about how to ask for opportunity. So, Tim, maybe you start, and Danielle, then why don't you, how did you guys even begin to think about the opportunity of moving to Florida? You're still doing real estate here. I want to make sure that that's clear, that anybody's watching, we aren't disregarding your ability to help people buy and sell here. But you are on a journey that's adding a new element, because I just find, like, I'm on this journey with this podcast, like, once you've done real estate for long enough, your friends and family are in your relationships and your sphere provide a good lifestyle for you to then decide, do you want to just blow that up? And that's what you do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Or am I being called to something more, something different? And so for me, this week it's the podcast. I don't know what next week looks like. Right now it's the podcast. But so asking for opportunities, what did you mean by that?
So I think,
what are you doing? Start with what you're doing. And then talk about how you got into that and how that worked for you guys.
So what are we doing? So we are, I think our label is growth and development for 5-star real estate.
Yeah, that's on your business card.
That's on the business card. Yeah. So we are down in Florida, and we just opened up a new office down there. 5-star did.
Is that their first office?
That is their first office. Official office in Florida. And we are down there making connections with agents, meeting agents, and kind of giving them a background of what 5-Star is all about and seeing if 5-Star would be a good fit for them to partner with.
So the label is recruiter. You're the recruiter.
We're a recruiter.
Yeah.
All those fancy words were a recruiter.
Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's like almost a little bit of another layer to it, just being in a completely new environment.
Yeah, you're the leaders too of this clan, right?
Well, and just like establishing the brand there is a little bit, obviously in Michigan, everyone knows who 5-Star is because we have.
Is there a separate Instagram and a separate like branding
there
for Florida?
Isn't. There isn't. That's something we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've kept it just
5-Star
cohesive at this time, but.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe in the future.
So there's not a 5-Star Florida branding mechanism right now?
Not right now. Okay. It's just 5-Star.
I'd like to see that happen. Mary.
We've talked about it.
Yeah. I think it would define, you'd have an ability to define yourselves a little bit more.
Yeah.
And not be worried about like, okay, are we talking too much about Florida and are we annoying the Michigan people? And there's smarter people than I am.
Yeah.
Try talking about that, but.
So how the opportunity came about.
We have it on we had it on the vision board.
Yeah, so out
like
here it says
years.
Live in the sunshine.
Yeah.
So I would say like in the same way that.
And you had spent 2023, you had spent like a couple weeks in Florida at that point.
Yeah, in the beginning of 2024.
Well,
because you came back and we did this vision board thing together.
We spent 2 weeks down in Florida at the start of 24.
Yes.
Okay.
We went down for 2 weeks.
And when we were there, we were like,
this needs to be home.
Yes.
This feels.
Tim literally like posted a picture and was like, Florida, you feel like home.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think we had gotten back from that, or we had just been at a 5-Star happy hour about Florida. Yeah. It was either right before or right after.
Yeah, that was the same week we did the vision board. I remember this.
And all these agents showed up. And I was like, are all these people selling in both Michigan and Florida? And that's really what 5-Star Florida was.
Yeah, just a separate license holding place for people that wanted to do both.
Snowbirds who wanted to do both. And I was like, well, maybe.
But not necessarily snowbirds, because I don't think of Missy as a snowbird, right? But
I think she lives more.
Okay. She is, I think now. But I think at that time, I don't know if she was full-time down there. And that's really what 5-Star Florida was about. It was like some agents a few years ago approached them and were like, we're going to be here and back and forth. Can you guys do this thing? And we're like, well, why? We could do that probably. Like, why? Yeah. If other people are, especially if 40 some people, we learned only 4.
Not 40.
Yeah.
Everyone
liked the idea. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't that interesting, right? I think I asked Steve Gick that, like, if fear didn't stop you, what would you do now? Yeah. Right? Fear doesn't stop people coming to a networking event about Florida, but fear stops
them getting their license
6 people from actually doing that thing that in their heart they'd like to do or seems like something that's exciting, but like the fear stops.
So I don't know if it's just like us growing up or me growing up in age too, but I think I used to always have such a hard time asking questions. Like it was just never something that you weren't told to do. Like if you had to ask a question or ask for an opportunity, like it wasn't like the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And I've kind of come to the realization, like, just ask the questions and ask the things. The worst that can happen is no.
Right. Which you're in the position you're still in, right?
Right.
And like, okay.
Like
now,
it's fine.
the person knows my interest level, but it doesn't fit, right? Yeah.
So we actually got an email from, I think, Mary, and was like, who do you know who could benefit from coming to 5-Star?
Yeah.
And then I kind of got the gears clicking in our brain. I was like, is anyone doing this in Florida? Like, why are they not growing in Florida? What's going on with 5-Star in Florida? So like, just message Mary and ask if we can meet with Paul about Florida and see what they say. And they were like, sure, you can come talk to Paul. Paul's very open.
Yeah, he'll talk about any idea. He loves ideas.
I don't think he had.
Do you know he watches at least 1, if not 2 documentaries every night?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I did not know that.
The dude is just like, documentary fiend. Like he watches so many. I had the conversation. I said, I think I would get anxiety from that many document because I wouldn't know which one's true and which one's false. There's just too much information.
Yeah.
But every night his wife like crawls into bed and he watches another documentary. But anyway,
Interesting.
but his brain is very inquisitive. Right?
Yeah.
He's always open to like talking about a new idea, I think. And that's what.
Yeah.
Random,
so we met with him on a Friday. I think it ended up being like an hour and a half, maybe close to 2 hours. And he was like, I would love to grow in Florida. Yeah. It would be amazing. Everyone seems to like want to be there, but no one wants to like help this thing get up off the ground.
Right. And Paul's got enough going on here in Michigan, and his dad is semi not retired, but like, really given the reins. He's not trying to build, right? He's trying to maintain.
Yep.
Right. Or you think Greg is trying to build?
I feel like he's like one of those people who will never officially retire.
Yeah. And like now being in our role now, like we talk to Greg a lot and he's very,
we talk to him once a week.
He's like very, very involved into the operation. And it's been, so anyway,
So you asked.
So we asked and he goes, let's meet with my dad.
Yeah.
So that was a Friday and golf outing was Monday. He was like, let's go out to dinner after golf outing.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're like, okay. And they hired us for a month. Because at that time we had been,
but you weren't even hired were you hired for a month or you made the phone calls first and then
we were hired for a month?
We were like, this month, let's have you do X.
Okay.
They're like, make 100 phone calls, get some like market data for us.
We'll give you a couple $, actually prove that you're willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And see if you one, like it, two, if this thing would work, if our model kind of fits into Florida.
Yeah.
So we did.
I love that, right? That the encouragement of an entrepreneur, right? The idea that they're like, what does it hurt us to give whatever amount of money to the Millers to help them process their goals and see if it aligns
see if
with
this
us.
can take off.
How amazing is that?
An awesome opportunity.
Really cool opportunity.
It's been a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And
so you made phone calls.
We actually brought on, and this is just like timing.
Yeah.
We're like in everything in life is timing. We called an agent and she was like, why are you calling me?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, this is why. We're just kind of researching Florida and we're wanting to potentially open an office in Tampa. She's like, well, I'm leaving my brokerage.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Like
she's
in the
like,
next few days.
We're probably going with this brokerage, but
she was like, honestly, it doesn't feel quite right. Like, we don't know if this is the thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I've never done a real like recruitment call.
Yeah. You've been on them with me, but not like actually go do them yourself, right?
So we like started asking some of the questions and I was like, can we set up a meeting with Paul?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, that'd be great. And at the end of the call, they were like, this is amazing. We would love to partner with 5-Star and like, let's get this thing going. Yeah. And so we brought them on and they've just been an amazing resource for us. The mom has been an agent in Florida for years and the daughter is very involved now too. So it's just been great to have them on
champions.
board.
You found a champion for you guys and for the brand.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was all during the first month. And then, next step was like, do we get an office? They really wanted, the team we brought on was like, we think we need an office. Danielle and I were like, we need an office.
Sure. Yeah. You need some kind of placeholder.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it was,
you can't say we're on paper, but have nothing tangible to say that we actually believe enough to be secure here. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it was like, at first, Tampa has tons of like workspace.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, let's maybe do this. And all of a sudden, like Paul sent us this huge office.
Yeah.
We were like,
oh my gosh. Okay. Like this isn't the one we got.
Yeah.
But it was like it was a mortgage company at the time and then title up top, like big. And I was like, wow. And it was gone, like instantly snatched. And then like 2 days later, he was like, okay, we rented this. And I was like, oh, this is sweet. Like,
so it's in a location called Hyde Park, which is basically kind of like an EGR.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's a cute little spot.
It's a really cool location. And I think it really helped set us up for success down there too, because I think every agent we've talked to have been like, oh,
you're
this is in
here.
Hyde Park.
Like they're like, you're here. Like,
so you're paying some money for a nice space.
Yeah.
You actually have
we're
something
we're
established.
new here, but we have a big backing up in Michigan. Like we're an established company. Like, we're not messing around here. We want to grow.
So you would encourage, we're going to have to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
But Sue's going to be here soon.
It's also been really fun. So now we connect with Greg a lot, which I did not know Greg like at all. I don't think I had ever talked to him prior to us doing this.
Yeah.
And his excitement level too of like 5-star Florida is now like through the roof, and like hearing
building something, right?
Yeah. He's like, this brings me back to when we started.
Like when he started with him and a couple of agents.
So to have him mentor you, like, do you feel that mentorship from him?
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And how does that feel, Tim? Like as a man, to have another man look into your life and say, like, I want to encourage you to do this?
I think it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's just been really great to see his excitement and have him giving us ideas and seeing the potential in 5-star Florida and within us too, of like, I'm taking time to invest in you guys too, to hopefully get this to somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, he flew down to Florida. He has a condo down in Florida, like 2 hours away. He flew in on a Monday and he drove up on a Friday and spent the whole day with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like taking pictures of everything. And he's like, this is so cool. And so he's been super excited. And we're excited to watch it grow. We have 7 agents in Tampa now, and we're bringing on 2 to 3 more next month. So
congratulations.
We're getting some growth down there, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been so much fun connecting with a bunch of people. We had a big grand opening,
which looked awesome.
We had a lot of people come. Everyone in Florida has been super supportive of us. Like, it's been a great fit so far.
So to wrap up, can you encourage people to go after their dreams somehow? Right. Like, you guys have really, I guess that's the proud part of me, like maybe being the old man in the room, but this idea that like you created the vision board, you dreamed of Florida, you dreamed of Zion, you asked questions to get there. Right. Like, and I mean, fear has not held you back. And like, how would you encourage others that might be in your being 30 and feeling stuck, but wanting something different, to strive for that different?
Yeah. I would say to definitely go after that dream. And I don't want to say it's like easy. Like, we didn't really touch much on this either, but like when we first got married, we made the decision to get rentals. And like, we only have 2, but those 2 have provided us opportunities to do something like this, of like, if for whatever reason this does not work, we have the houses to sell. Like, if we really have to, like, we have something. But when we started, she doesn't think it was like this. I thought it was like this. I had to sell houses to pay for those renovations. Yeah. And do the things. Like, it was very much like, we did not have a savings.
Right. I mean, you invested your time in it.
It was like sacrifice for me in the way that I felt like we weren't like settling anywhere anytime soon. Like, we were like building up a business, and
we didn't buy the house we wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
For the first 2, like, it was like, these are very much like a business decision purchase. Like, this is not where we would choose to be.
So you would encourage newly married folks to sort of make that life plan of like, what are we going to sacrifice now to be able to
do something in
the future?
Yeah.
Right.
However, I would not encourage them to sacrifice relationships, because that's one of the big things that me and Tim talk about. Is we spent a lot of our 20s focusing on our business and building up everything, that we really didn't socialize a lot.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we wish we would have done more. But I think now we're just realizing it's just important to do the things that are going to make you happy. I think it's important to find like a work self balance in life. In the same way that the mountains bring Tim peace, like the water obviously brings us peace as well. We have our boat and the sunshine. And so like, we're like, we need to do what's right for us to be happier every year, you know, and that's what the sun does for us.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just important to to think about what is going to truly make you happy in life.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you want to leave on that you didn't say that when you walked in here, you're like, I really hope people can take this from me? And if you said it all, that's fine.
I didn't have an agenda. You didn't send us any questions or anything to prepare. Point, right?
And we still did an hour and a half.
I think just believe in yourself.
Yeah, I think that's been one thing too. Like we have a lot of conversations right now with people too. With
recruiting and everything, it's like there's...
Bet on yourself?
Yeah, bet on yourself and like try the things. Like, I mean, obviously pertaining to real estate, but like you don't need all these leads. Like you are your business. Like that's what 5-star is too. Is like you are your business and you are the brand behind, it is what you put into it. And I think you just need to bet on yourself for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And cool things can happen.
Yeah. Well, that's
perfect.
I think that's a good way to end it. Bet on yourself because cool things can happen. That's probably going to be a reel or something. a little something we'll pull out of here. But thank you.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
This is kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. So this ends. I'm just Steve, the podcast with the Millers, the couple. I am the man in their phone. And we're always welcome to have the man, Matthew McConaughey, come on. So if Matthew's around and listening, someday.
I believe, hey, bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself. And you got to ask for the opportunity, as Mr. Miller said. So we're asking for that opportunity.
Have you sent him a DM?
Not yet. We're going to put some of these out there. We'll add him as a, contributor and see if his social media people will catch on. And then, we'll probably have to do it in a kitchen because I really want his ribeye because he's like cooking up this massive ribeyes lately.
That's so funny.
We'll see. I don't know.
Send him a handwritten note somehow.
We'll get there one thing at a time. Get the podcast out first and invite him in, and then we'll add to the flavors over time. So,
love it.
Anyways, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Have a good week.
All right.